In a previous tutorial, we looked at how to install Get Bible on your website and have it functional and active with the least difficulty. Now we would like to look at changing that to the feature where you no longer query the Bible from our API, but actually from your own local API. In the global settings, which you can get to by clicking, if you've gone to Components, Get Bible, you could click on Options. This then loads the global setting page, which gives you options to change certain features and stuff in regards to your Get Bible. You'd see that under global settings, it has API option to use Get Bible API. It also is unlocked and it is not local. And the default start version is King James, and you see that there's a whole list of all the available translations. Now, this list of translations are actually rendered from Get Bible. It is not locally actually available. Now, we have adapted the application so that within the moment you install your first local Bible, the application will change this to a local API by itself. So we'll leave this. We won't make any changes here. So what I'm actually saying is you don't really need to come here to change to a local API. All you need to do is install a Bible. So let's look at installing a Bible. But before we do, I want to tell you that there's two ways of installing the Bibles onto your servers, database. The one would be to install it directly from Get Bible, which is the easiest method. And if it's able to do it that way, this is what we would suggest you use. But if for some reason you cannot access our website anymore, or for any other reason, there is another option of doing a local install. When you do local installing of the Bibles, you'd need to download the Bibles from Get Bible and place them in a local folder. This local folder is the root folder of your website. So that means the same folder in which plugins and components and templates your administrator folder, everything is in the root public HTML folder. Now you need to create a file in that root folder, and inside of that you need to create a folder in that root folder, and inside that folder you need to place the Bibles that you have downloaded from Get Bible. So on Get Bible you'd go to Downloads, and under Component you'd go to the very bottom and it says Download the Bibles. And here you can select the Bibles that you want to download, which you would then place in that folder you created on your root Joomla install. Now you'd see that you're at the bottom right corner of the video, left corner of the video, it shows the convention name of the specific files. It's just simple text files. And please keep to those conventions. First up would be the language, then the name of the translation, then an abbreviative of the translation, and then the directional reading of the translation. If you're going to add a translation which is not listed here, you would need to follow a convention, these conventions. So you need to come and download one that we've set up and change that translation to following these conventions in the way the text is stored inside of the document, as well as the naming convention being French, then the name of the translation, Martin 1744, and then 2 underscores and an abbreviative, and Martin, and then 2 underscores left to right. So you would use 1 underscore in the name spacing, but 2 underscores in the separation of the different certain values. I hope you followed me there. If you have any questions, please open a support ticket and we can assist you further. So if you're using a local install, you download the Bibles from here and you put them into this folder on your local server, and you leave this to local. We will not be doing a local install. We will do a Get Bible install of the versions we want to use for our local API. So we'll leave this to Get Bible and just cancel out here. Now to install the Bibles, you'd go to Install Bibles. Here on Installed Bibles, you see that there is a list of available translations. This translation list is populated from our server. If you have moved to a local install and you've uploaded the translations to that specific folder that you've set up, then this list will be populated from all the versions available inside of that folder. So we want to do a King James Version installation. Okay, and then we click Install Bible Version. This process does take long, and some servers do not allow for such a long execution on the PHP side of things. In that case, there are some changes we can make to the PHP INI file and in the .htaccess file, so that we can assist you to installing these great big chunks of the Bible translations. If you can Google that to increase your import, or rather your PHP default settings. We will at some point set up a help page to do that. If you can't get it right, you can always open a ticket and we can try assist you there. But the best way would be to ask your host to increase the PHP limitations. Okay, so once this installation is complete, we'll restart the recording. For now, we'll pause it since it will take a while. We now have the King James Version installed, and to see whether it is now using our local API, we can go to the front of our site and click on the app page, and it should then only show the installed version like it does there. And so currently we are running this page from our local API and no longer from Get Bible. The way to set this manually would be to go back to the global configurations by clicking on Options. Then you would go to Global Settings and you change this API option to Local. And you can also lock the local API to ensure that strangers do not use your API. They would need this key to actually then use your API. We will do another tutorial on explaining how all that will work. But by locking it, it will stop people from actually accessing your API. And I want to quickly demonstrate to you what I mean by saying that. Okay, so let me save this. You'd see your app page just loads as normal, and there is no real change to what is happening here. But now I want to go to the API. So we set it up previously. It's just adding JSON to the domain name, and we see that it renders null. Now if we go to the backend here, let's close this. We see that there's an API tab on the home page, and it gives you different ways that you can query for scriptures. You can use text, you can use P for paragraph or passage, script, text, scripture, passage, and different ways that you can query it. We're going to just grab this first strip here to test out your local API then, and we would just come here and paste that in there and click enter, and you'd see that it still renders null. So the way that you would need to now get your API to function in an application currently would be to get this API key like that, copy, and then add to the string that you had before, and there it goes, key equals, oops, and that key that you set up, and now it renders the scripture. So whoever queries your API will now need this key. I realize it's not that secure, and at the same time it's the best we have currently, but what we would in future try to do, and we will keep you posted, is adding a sort of movable target, which then helps us allocate a key per user. Any registered user then will have his own key, and it won't be a global key that just will work for everyone. So that is in the pipeline for further development. Currently, you can lock it, and then people will need this key. In your app page, we are not making use of that key, but instead we are using a dynamic internal key. So if we were to look at the source code, you would see that there is another key being used, and this key is tied to your website's session. So every session, this key changes. That is what I believe is very secure, and so it prevents everyone from outside of your website from using your API. So as long as you keep then that other key that you've set private, you don't give it out to anyone, and make it nice and long and hard, then I can say that with no doubts that your website is actually very secure. But literally what you're seeing on this page is the API. It is rendering a JSON object, and you can parse this JSON object with JavaScript. You can look at how this, you can change how this looks so you could understand better. So let me copy this and take it to a JSON online editor, paste it in there, and then have them formatted. And you see that it's an object. It's an object with one book. It gives you the direction of that book. It tells you what type of result this is. This is a verse result. You get 3 different types: verse, chapter, and book. So if you want to see book result, you just take this away, click enter. Now it renders the whole book. That's the whole book of John. Quite a hefty result set, but it was quite fast in its rendering from a local perspective. So let's put that in here. Okay, that's quite big. Whoop. So it breaks it down. It says now this time around the type is book, and the name is John, and the book number and the direction of the book. And then you have chapter 1 with 51 verses, and each verse is then wrapped up within its own little square with its own verse number. So that is how the JSON API responds. And so Get Bible is actually a JSON Bible API. And the app page is our demonstration of how this API can be utilized. Obviously, we would like others to get involved, programmers, look at it and improve what we have done. All our code is available on GitHub. So you can go to GitHub and you can look at the different components that we have made for this application. There's a search module, there's loading the scripture in the content, and then the component itself. And here you can look the actual function that we are using to compile our result set is located in this file here, Get Bible. So you can come look through this file and how it starts building the response. We have a search function, we have the get item, and you can look through this code. And if you can help us improve this, we will be very happy. This is our first attempt, and it was obviously done quite fast. So there are very much room, I suppose, for improvements. Here is a quick list of the way you could call a passage. You could use P, passage, text, script, and scripture. And to call a version, you can use, let me see, no, this is how you call a search. Here is the types. It's v, ver, version, translation, or lang. So any of those would be used, you can use to actually call the version. So that means in JSON API query, you would add another and then v. Now currently you just have King James installed, so we can't call something else. So we call King James version, enter, and it will return a result. Obviously, if you do not have a version installed, like the Afrikaans All Translation, it will return null. So if there is no version in your local API installed with this as its abbreviative, it won't return any scripture. You can leave that out, for by default it will return the King James version. So for the less technical guys, basically installing your first Bible changes your API to a local API. You can then come and lock it here, put in some very hefty, difficult key, which no one can sort of guess in a million years, and then basically just have it use your API on your own site. If you want to know more about developing for this API program in JavaScript, then we can discuss this on GitHub in different ways, or you could just contact me at info@getbible.net. And that's basically as simple as it is. There's little things on the side. There's a feature for search in the app page, which you can make a lot of changes to here. And then there's also the way that the app page loads. You can change that. It doesn't automatically load chapters, and it behaves more like a book instead of a stream. And yeah, that's how you could change. Let's make the, let's see, we want the display option of the search box to be a button. Yeah, and we just leave it like that. And if we then refresh here, we have the search function, and you can search the scripture. Okay, there we will make another video to give more depth into how the search function works in correlation with the search module, and also we will also look at the way that the plugin that we load the scripture and content. There is a page called on Get Bible called Load Scripture, which actually does address this already in a very systematic way, but we will nonetheless make a little video to cover whatever we've maybe missed in this document. Yeah. Okay, thank you for watching, and if you run into any troubles, we have a support department. You can click here and you can open a support ticket, and we will try to help you as best we can. Okay, goodbye.